Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the plenary session with a couple of bright speakers as well as the presentations, and I would like to think about the tigers. How many tigers do you know? Tiger Woods. That's the first one. Bengali tigers. The African tigers, the Usurian tigers. But despite of that, there are some economic ones. The economic tigers in the world, and probably you have heard and you have been wondered about that. What happened in Singapore? So Mr. Thiam, who is the chairman of the Global Management Forum, welcome him. And he's going to reveal the couple of secrets what has led to the success of the Singapore. Mr. Thiam?
Thank you very much.
Yes, do you need my mic or do you use that?
Okay, I'm very happy here to be in Riga, although the weather is quite different from my own country. I must like Riga because this is my 8th visit, I think. And when I get lost walking around Riga, at least the rain only pitter-patter. Whereas in Singapore, the heavens open and all the rain drop on you, so it gets too wet to go walking about in the rain. Now, I'm here to talk about economic development in Singapore and education as such. So let me just show you what I have in mind. My name is Siew Thiam. Over the past 50 years, I have seen my country, Singapore, transform from a third world backwater to a first world metropolis. This was Singapore in the 1950s. People were so poor, they lived on houseboats. The river was their toilet. A group of young people in their 20s transformed Singapore from third world to first. I'm speaking to you from the Latvian consulate, one of the few buildings that has not changed much. From its rooftop, Singapore has been transformed into the heart of Asia. Today, Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world. It is my privilege to help you transform Latvia to whatever you want it to be. Okay, that's what I had produced last year to support the Chamber of Commerce promotion of students on a trip to Singapore. But to set the context right, when Singapore got its independence in 1965, we had a GDP per capita of $500 per year, not per month, per year, $500 per year. That means $40 a month. Today, we have reached a level of 55,000 US dollars per capita per year. So that's 100 times jump. And how do we do it? It's where I will talk about it in a. Let's look at it. I will tell you about this in a moment. How do we do it? Okay. The foundation for Singapore's success is based on two things: British expertise, and that is Western science and Western technology, but also mixed well with Confucian values. So it's mixed productively with Confucian values. This is what I think most people miss about East Asia. That's the story of China and the story of Singapore is all about merging Western values with Confucian values. So here, Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles founded Singapore in 1819. Now, Singapore wasn't a colony that the British colonized. The British bought the island from the Malay rulers. And because it was a place that nobody wanted, it was a mosquito swamp with about 200 fishermen living on it. So the Raffles bought the island because he felt that Singapore would be ignored, because at that time the colonial powers were the dominant colonial powers were the British and the Dutch, and they were going to divide the world into two, where Indonesia where all the rich soil that produced the spices of the East would go to the Dutch, and Malaya, which had a very poor laterite soil, would go to the British. So Stamford Raffles thought that his masters in London were mad to make such an arrangement. So he decided to start a little port, bought this land from the sultans, set up a free port. And at that time, you must understand, the big ideological battle between the Dutch and the British was that the British believe in free trade, whereas the Dutch believe in mercantilism. And so this battle was going on. He thought that if he set up a free port near Indonesia, the traders would all escape from the Dutch mercantilism and come to Singapore to trade. And that's how Singapore started. Because of an idea by a distant colonial guy who was so junior because he had to report to Calcutta, who reported to the colonial office in London. So he had the imagination to do that. So that was the beginning of Singapore. And yesterday, we had to mark the funeral of this man. He was the founder of modern Singapore. He's Kuan Yew, and it is his imagination that has brought Singapore up to this great level. Now, if you think of the two, what I'm telling you actually is not my own observation, but that of an American professor from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. You know, MIT is a very successful company. And this school, Shine, wrote a book called, E.H. Shine wrote a book called Strategic Pragmatism. That's what Singapore is, pragmatist. And his story is that Asian and Western managerial styles can mix. And this is what many Western theoreticians cannot understand, that they think that Western style must dominate the world and the whole world is going to become Western. But modernism doesn't mean Westernism in Asia. So the next stage is that how did Singapore get up? Singapore got up only through one thing: belief in people. In that people is truly the only resource that lasts. Look at the oil price crash now. You know, all the guys who depended on so much on the Middle East, they thought they were going to be rich forever. But no, it's only people that is important. Singapore has nothing. We don't even have oil, and what are we? We are one of the biggest oil centers in the world. We have no steel, no iron ore, nothing, and we are one of the biggest rig building centers in the world. All because people is what it's all about. And we have been thinking a lot about the education of people. So, and we started with this thought: thinking schools and learning nation. That's how we started. Thinking schools and learning nation. That means you don't just depend upon people to teach students, but when they become citizens, they will continue to learn. Then the other point that we know is that the future cannot be anticipated. So what future do we want? We must give them such a broad-based education that they can fit into the future, whatever the future brings. That's the reflections part. Then we try to equip them with some hard skills for the future, such as technology and internet, and to understand e-commerce and all those things. But nevertheless, we realize that it is still uncertainty is more the key. So this is now our latest model. We love acronyms. So, it started with TSLN, Teaching Schools, Learning Nation. Then we evolved into I&E, which is Innovation and Enterprise. But finally, we are now working on TLLM. And what's that? Teach less, learn more. Isn't that great for you guys, teachers? You don't have to work so hard. So the concept is that the less you teach, the more the students will be forced to learn. And so what you need to do is just inspire them. And then they must take up the cudgels themselves to keep on learning. And because we realize that this is what the future is going to be, what have we got in all the developed countries? We have an aging population. More and more people getting older, with fewer younger and younger ones. Now, many people, as was mentioned just now, many people are not likely to be able to join a company and be looked after from the cradle to the grave or the womb to the tomb. Now it's no more. So the employer does not, the moment your skills are less than relevant to him, he will say goodbye to you. So therefore, we need to equip our citizens with the ability to continue learning into old age. And I think yesterday, the Kuan Yew, those of you who watch BBC, you would have seen him, the funeral of him. He was 91, but he was still learning. He was still open to ideas. And this is the key, really, is the openness to ideas and the ability to absorb new things. So how do we go from here? This is another chart, which is, I think the circle is taken mainly from Daniel Goleman's work about emotional intelligence. So when we teach our students, it's not just teaching them the hard skills. So we have to teach them the soft skills. And emotional intelligence is one of our core things. And let's go on. This is just a little bit of bragging to show you how well East Asia is doing in education. This is the PISA results from the 2012 survey. And we got knocked off. We are not really at the top yet because Shanghai is obviously top in reading, maths, and science. So China is really coming on. And in reading, Hong Kong was second, Singapore third. Maths, Singapore second. Hong Kong science, Singapore third. But so overall, we came out third. But note this, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, what are they? All Chinese people. All Chinese who believe that you have to teach them, but at the same time, the PISA test, as you know, is not all about regurgitating the facts, but about creative problem solving. So they are so well taught now that they are capable of problem solving. So let's just go on. Riding the waves of change, this is the tsunami, as you know, what's happening. I just talked to you a little bit about the parable of the frog. Those of you who already know this, you know that Chinese like the frog soup, don't you? Do you drink frog soup here? Any of you from any other country here? Well, anyway, the thing is that you put up to prepare frog soup in a gentle way. You let the frog enjoy playing in cold water. And then you put a little flame underneath and heat it up slowly. And then slowly, as the water warms up, the frog enjoys himself even more because it's great. It's just like ladies going to the spa, the warm water will warm you up. But in the end, you get frog soup. This is not what Singapore wants to be. We are always reminded of this parable because we want to escape being boiled alive by the changes that are indiscernible. Because the tsunami represents big changes. But small changes that happen regularly, we may not even know about. So in the end, where we got Nokia, we are so dominant in the world, suddenly disappear. Because steady change has happened. Okay, let's just move on. This is a point I want to make, that will Singapore story last now that our founding father is gone? And this is just a representation of the industries where we are dominant in. I can tell you a little bit more about each industry, but I'm going to take a few hours. So I'll just tell you that what unites all of them is the fact that we have the courage to abandon the past every time an industry changes. So in every one of these industries, these are all high value added industries. So we chase after high value added industries because that's what put us $55,000 US per annum, and we went past the United States about 3 years ago. You know, and so that's the story of this industry, but we can talk about it some other time when I meet you. Can Singapore continue to grow? Well, you know what the Greek god Icarus says? He had the ability to fly because he had put wax on his wings. But he flew too close to the sun. He can say, look, I can go higher and higher. He got close to the sun, and then when the sun melted the wax, he fell to earth. Singapore doesn't want to be like China in 1793. In 1793, when the British ambassador, Lord Macartney, asked China to open up, and he brought gifts from Europe to China. The Chinese emperor told him, look, Lord Macartney, go back to your country because we don't need any of your stuff because we are quite happy as we are. Little did he know that that was the line that led to the decline of China. Because the moment you close your mind, you start going downhill. Europe has seen this during the Dark Ages when it closed its mind, closed its doors. It's only when the Renaissance came and Europe embraced the outside world that it continued to, that it prospered again. So the lessons from Singapore, this is Shine again in his book about pragmatism. He mentioned all these theories. I have no time to go through all these theories, but the main thing is the last one, and is Asian and Western managerial styles can mix. Okay, is Singapore a product of the West or the East? Just take a look at this. Isn't that beautiful? At night, this is the night scene of Singapore on the riverfront, and in front of you is the tropical garden which we have created to take in plants from all over the world, and that is the hotels that cater to our casino guests. And this could only be produced because we followed Adam Smith, the invisible hand, right? We followed Adam Smith. But if you look at all these things and you go to Singapore believing that Singapore is Western, then don't forget this man, that Confucius is in all our hearts, and that it is only the combination of Western science and Eastern values that Singapore is where it is today. And it blends the best of West and East in a new yin-yang. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thiam. Is there any questions from the audience that you would like to pass to our brilliant speaker? Just raise your hand up and we will be able to ask him. Yes, you're welcome.
Hello. My name is Jakobs. I am a secondary school teacher of economics here in Latvia. My question is the following. You mentioned Adam Smith as one of the prime cornerstones upon which Singapore built its strong economic prosperity. But my question is, what can you comment on strong state involvement in facilitating economic development, as that has typically been one of the main things that has been quoted why the Southeast Asian tigers arose in the first place? Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, all three had very strong state involvement in facilitating economic processes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think when I mentioned Adam Smith, it was just as a symbol of acceptance of Western value, because East Asians, and when you mention Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and that, don't forget the dominant economic forces in all these countries are the minority Chinese people. So it's all a network of Chinese that are dominant in Asia. So state capitalism is, we are a mixture of Adam Smith and Keynes, and John Maynard Keynes. So because we don't follow any ideology, we don't believe that, oh, you know, it must be freedom and freedom for all. We want to know what works. So if it works, we'll go for it. So as I said just now when I showed you the industries that we go into, every industry we aim for upgrading all the time because we don't stop. This is the necessity in this changing world, that you got to keep on momentum going. So Adam Smith was just an example of just an example. But we are also Keynesians, so we are all the same. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from the audience right now? Then, yes, you're welcome, Caroline.
You mentioned the Confucian thinking, the Confucian values.
Yeah.
And probably most people here would understand from the Western side what the matrix is, but from the Confucian side, what are the values that you say you are borrowing from that thinking?
I think one is, there are so many Confucian values that I can talk about, but the sense of respect for hierarchy, for one. Though you can say that, are East Asian democratic? We think we are, because we have election every 5 years. But even in the West, there's a range of concept of democracy, from the Edmund Burke's feeling of responsible Democrats to the current American model of every taking opinion polls every now and again, you know, where it's populism. We see that as populism. We don't see that as democracy, right? So what is Confucian? It's communitarianism, the feeling that you got to work for the benefit of all. Benevolence. Benevolence is that you must care for others and not just yourself. You see, you look at a Maslow hierarchy of needs, you find that at the peak is self-actualization. That is not Asian. That is very Western, you see, because Asian is benevolence. Then so the peak of the human achievement is concern for others, not concern for yourself. So these are the differences. Okay,
and the last question from my side. Has the technology somehow changed the school or educational environment? Because we have a very extensive discussions here in Latvia, for example. Yeah. The technology, has it?
Technology?
Yes.
Of course, technology, our schools are so well equipped. Up to recently, the highest budgetary item in our annual budget was defense. Because we live in a volatile area, we want to make sure that we have enough weapons. But now the biggest investment is technology, is education. And all our schools are highly technologically equipped. You go into the school, you find all the latest gizmos and technological marvels available for every child. So there is no child left out because we believe in investing in technology and education.
Do you allow that bring your own device concept as well in schools, or just?
No. All schools, because most of the schools are government-owned. 90% of our schools are run by the government. You see, we are lucky to have a government that has surpluses every year. So that's why we can invest and invest, because we always. The first education, the first lesson you must teach a student is never spend more than what you earn. That's all. This is a simple concept. And it works for us because every year we spend less than what we earn. And this, look at us now, boom. Because of all the schools are very well equipped. The private schools, the Singapore model has attracted so many private school foreigners who want to learn in Singapore. And you know how much they pay? They pay something like $100,000 per year just to come to our schools, to benefit from our education system, these foreigners. But if they are local, what is it, $500 a month? Or $500 a year? They will pay. Because our schools are highly subsidized.
Thank you. So, dear teachers, would you like to add something? If not, then your applause are welcome.